Welcome to episode 2 of the Football Sheet. I'm your host Leon, here with my co-host Richard, and today we have a guest, Chris. Chris is a West Ham fan. We said we was going to get different fans on the show, and we have. So,
how you doing, lads? You alright?
Yeah, not too bad, mate.
I'm very good. Right, so the topics today are the match analysis of the weekend's football and the other stories. Our second topic will be the current crisis at Manchester United Football Club, not one that Richard's particularly looking forward to, I can imagine, and the Arsenal injury problems arise again. So we'll get off with the weekend analysis of football. What did you think of the football this weekend, lads?
Pretty good. There wasn't any surprising results really. I actually thought, to be honest, we could have got something at Old Trafford. I thought we played well. I thought United were brilliant going forward, but defensively still a bit shaky. I think the young lad McNair, he looked pretty decent. Big future ahead. But I just think United really got to strengthen their defence, and they've got to do it soon. I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if it wasn't for the young defender McNair, United would definitely have got to go back. And then the way United are, I can't see them coming back from a draw. I don't see that team being able to push forward, because I think you need the whole team to attack, and a lot of that team is really looking shaky, and all it takes is one breakaway, and we saw what happened when Wayne Rooney tried to stop that breakaway, sloppy bit of defensive work from him, and he gets himself sent off, and that's the captain, that's the main man in your team, and he goes and does something silly like that. I mean, it's really silly, it's ridiculous, if fact. What did you think of the incident, Richard?
I just think, look, he's got it in him, hasn't he? He's not going to change. It doesn't matter whether he's captain of England, whether he's captain of United, whether he's scoring 50 goals a season. He's got that little bit in him where he's going to kick out at somebody. He's got that little bit of a temper.
Yeah, definitely.
And, there was a game last season, I think it may have been Stoke or Crystal Palace, I can't remember which one, and he kicked out at somebody, and rightly last season he should have been sent off. But he got away with it last season. But I think, in all fairness, with a game of of the weekend and stuff, I just think, look, United have got problems. Everyone can see that. But I think if once a few of the players come back in defence, we've not got a bad defence. We've just not got a world class defence. And I think if once Phil Jones plays there week in, week out, the biggest disappointment for me as a United fan this season has been Johnny Evans. He had his opportunity to take the fact that Rio and Vidic have both gone. He was the senior centre back, and now he's injured. But the games he did play, he was possibly our worst defender. And I think that's where the problem lies: is that the opportunity for people to step up, and it's been the young kids. Tyler Blackett's been solid. He needs somebody to learn from. The young lad at the weekend was quite possibly our best defender. And that's worrying for a United fan, that these 18, 19, 20-year-olds are coming in and performing better than players that have played week in, week out in the Premier League and Champions League.
And definitely, and I can imagine from being a United fan as well, it's probably difficult seeing some of them players that have just come from winning the league to just playing like completely different people.
I just think it's all down to confidence at the end of the day. And look, I don't think anybody was expecting it to be as bad as what it was last season. But obviously now, everyone's had their own opinions of it. Everyone had their idea of whether or not David Moyes was big enough for the job, whether or not he could attract the right players, whether or not he could motivate the prima donnas of the Premier League, the biggest footballers in the Premier League. Can David Moyes motivate them to win football matches? And
I think I'm sorry to butt in, but I also think we'd been saying for years, waiting for Ferguson to retire, and we were all saying the person that's got that job is going to have the toughest job in football, because even he was going to have to win everything in one season to even come close to being compared to Alex Ferguson. And, the guy's got such a great career, but people seem to forget that he didn't have the greatest starts either. But I also think that there was better candidates for that Manchester United role. I don't think Moyes was exactly the person, because he didn't have the sort of CV to take him into one of the biggest clubs in the world. But that's just my opinion on.
I think, in all fairness, in that situation, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a hardcore United fan, and I'm 100% thankful for what Alex Ferguson has brought to the football club. But I think Alex Ferguson knew what he was doing. Alex Ferguson wouldn't have wanted Mourinho to take over. You know, Van Gaal, Pellegrini, any of these top names around world football. He wouldn't have wanted one of them to take over because, I'm maybe being cynical, but if Jose Mourinho comes in, Manchester United win the Premier League. And it tarnishes everything that Alex Ferguson's done with that football club. So he brought...
And maybe he saw someone in Moyes who was also going to follow in his footsteps. You know, Mourinho plays a certain way of football at every club he's been to, and that's the defensive. And United have always been that sort of counter-attacking team, focus on young talent, you know, bring through a few players. But Mourinho hasn't really done that. You know, he's always been at a club. Okay, you can say at Porto he didn't have the millions that he did at Chelsea, but there was something about Mourinho that he likes to bring in his own brand of players. And Ferguson always wanted a United player to come through the ranks. You know, it was always
with David Moyes. He was a negative manager. You know, you look at any Everton result, you never, ever really thought that Everton had set the world on fire. You know, look at the games that they won against the top four clubs. City, the season before Moyes came to United, you know, Leon Osman scores a worldie after whatever it was, 16 minutes. And then they hang on and they sit there and they soak up. And in that game, Man City should have scored 4, 5, 6 goals. And then they catch him on the break and they beat him 2-0. He was a defensive manager. He was negative. It was all about how to stop the other side winning the game other than you actually going out and winning the football. And I think that's why at Manchester United last season, you know, there was a lot of negativity because the players were taught from day one, you go out there and you win. You go down 2-0, you still win the game. You at least get back and you get a point on the board. But David Moyes was all about, well, if we get that, we go down to 1-0, we make sure it stays at 1-0. We don't concede another goal. It was all negative and it was defensive and it wasn't a way of football that United played. And I think that's carried on to an extent this season because a lot of the players are still in that negative mindset of, you know, do I go forward? Do I not go forward? Do I, you know, what do I do? Where do I go from here? We've signed a lot of players. It's going to take time to gel, you know.
And also the fact obviously this whole talk of you need a world-class centre-back's been going on for a while now, but I don't feel you've brought in quite a few players and world-class players at that, but I don't think you've brought in the one player that you really need, a sort of leader. You know, you look at Wayne Rooney, he's been made captain. You can say that there's not many other people that could have been named captain at the club, but, you know, I always think that you need a leader, even in that team, because you had Ferdinand. Okay, he wasn't great for the last few years, but he was a presence. But at the moment, there doesn't seem to be a person like that at United, and you know, when you choose a striker as a captain, I always think it's going to backfire because, you know, I think it should always be a midfielder or a defender personally because they see more of the ball. Rooney's very, you know, to be fair to him, he tracks back and he does do some of the job, but he's an attacker at heart, so he's always going to be going forward. You need someone who's going to sit back and tell the other players what to do, and I don't see one of them at United. What do you think, Chris?
To be honest, I mean, obviously Van Gaal's one of the most experienced managers about. You know, he's been everywhere. But I think it's a bit of an error not with letting Ferdinand and Vidic go and not strengthening with two world-class centre-backs. I mean, most people, you know, anyone
and
knows
at least
anyone sort of strengthen from the back.
And especially a holding midfielder, which was definitely needed as well.
Yeah. There was players like sort of Sandro, who was at Spurs last year, and who's, you know, he's been iffy, but he showed signs. I think someone like him would have done really well at United. Yeah. Someone like Vidal, obviously, but, you know, it's the money as well. I mean, I don't know. It's a strange one. It's a really strange one, because I really thought Van Gaal would sort of strengthen from the back, if I'm honest.
Yeah. And I think the attacking players he brought in, I thought Falcao was a good buy.
Oh, it's a great buy. I mean, Di Maria. I mean,
and Di Maria's shown his worth. Yeah.
Going forward, United. I mean, in the last couple of games I've watched them, they look devastating. It's just they've got to strengthen the defence. And once they strengthen the defence, they're gonna be up there again. As simple as that. So
I think it was maybe
a case of.
I think it was maybe a case of he couldn't get the players that he wanted, and I don't think he wanted to sign. I don't think he just wanted to sign anybody. I mean, for me personally, I'd have personally, just for the Premier League experience, the fact that he's worked with him before. I'm not saying he's world class, and I'm not saying that he'd be, a regular for Manchester United if we had the likes of Hummels or somebody like that in the squad. But Ron Vlaar at Aston Villa, why not? Yeah. Why not swap him with Tom Cleverley? He obviously didn't want Tom Cleverley. He wanted £8 million for him. Villa didn't want to spend £8 million on him. They wanted £8 million for Ron Vlaar. Why not just do a swap deal? And just look, even if
considering after the World Cup as well, you would have thought he would have brought a few players with him. The talk originally was with Robben, but then he brushed that aside. So
I think two good buys for Manchester United last season. Well, in this season, sorry, in the transfer window, did have both combined cost less than £15 million. They both got Premier League experience, and it had been Ron Vlaar and Nigel de Jong.
Yeah,
both available, both probably for around about between 6 to 8 million maybe each. Why not get them two players in? He's worked with them week in, week out in with a national team. He knows what they can do. We all know that Nigel de Jong's a beast of a player. He gets stuck in. He gets he'll put a tackle in when need be. Ron Vlaar's the same. It's what Manchester United needed, and I think both players were available.
Definitely. And I think like you said, it's two players that I really don't understand the holding midfielder thing really, because obviously Blind's come in, and naturally isn't he a left back, Blind?
That's what I originally heard, that he was a left back, but apparently he can play in the centre role as well. But it's not really comforting that a player. It's like putting Luke Shaw in the left. It's a Luke Shaw on the right. He can probably play there, but it's probably not ideal. And you want someone who's going to come in and make that position his own. But with United, what do you think of the Luke Shaw buy? Do you think that was a good buy, Richard?
I think it was, in all fairness. He's a kid. He's going to grow. He's quite possibly in fact, he is going to be England's left back for the next 10, 15 years. So it's a good buy. Why, apart from the fact him being injured, why he's not maybe brought him on with 10, 15 minutes to go in games and just give him a run out? He's going to have to play now with a defensive, people we've got out in defence there at the moment. But, I think it's a good buy. I thought it was a little bit silly, to let Patrice Evra go.
I can't agree more. It would have been beneficial to Luke Shaw as well to have someone of that experience, like even just show you the ropes at United. I don't think Luke Shaw is going to play that much this year due to probably injury, but it would have been good to at least have Evra there to sort of carry the load, as it were.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially Evra would have been captain as well. That would have been a perfect for the whole team. Someone who's been there for years, someone who's won a lot of trophies there. But to suddenly see three, I'd say your captain, your vice captain, and the potential other captain to go. That's a lot of young players are being put in them roles, thinking, okay, who's going to sort of back me up here? Because we've seen that the three sort of centre midfielders in like Phil Jones, Johnny Evans and Chris Smalling, they're not doing it at the moment. They need someone with them, and that could turn into an issue. And maybe it would have been beneficial to buy Luke Shaw and loan him back to Southampton for a year, and keep Patrice Evra. Because he was playing well at Southampton.
I just think, look, at the end of the day, he was available and they bought him. I think, in all fairness, I'm not a massive fan of three at the back. I don't think it works in the Premier League.
No.
There's far too many teams out there that have got pacey wingers and pacey strikers. And is Di Maria going to want to track back for 90 minutes in a game playing on the on the left? I don't really think so. He's not really going to want to track back.
Also a big thing, Juan Mata. The reason he's not currently a Chelsea player is because he didn't track back. And, if that's the sort of player that Van Gaal needs, it probably won't be too soon before we see him, on the transfer list.
I think he'll go in January. I think they'll get rid of him. I don't think he was a player that... I think he was... I don't know. It was a lucrative deal to try and keep the pressure off David Moyes. I think he was 38 million pound wasted. He's not going to fit in. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a great player, and he's been superb.
He is, yeah.
But where's he going to fit in? And he's not going to fit in at United. It's as simple as that. He's simply not going to fit in. So I can't see it being long until he's sold. And I can see him going abroad. Maybe some sort of deal to maybe bring in. Vidal or somebody like that,
Yeah, I heard rumours that Kevin Strootman might be involved in the deal, but that's all paper talk until we hear something a bit more official.
Yeah.
And
we've got Fellaini.
Yeah, you never know. He could help you in your defensive errors. Like it happened with Mascherano, they turned him into a centre back. You never know. He's got the height for it, but the elbows aren't always the safest option for him. But that's we'll see that in the next few months. I mean, I can't see Van Gaal getting sacked this season. I don't think there's anyone else out there.
Oh, they'll never sack him. It'll be. I think, in all fairness, they've brought Van Gaal in for two reasons. Number one, to get Manchester United back into the Champions League, and hopefully in the next year or two win the Premier League again. And basically build the foundations of the future of the club, because we were built on foundations from Ferguson from the 80s. And he never really changed his philosophy on players. He'd never spend too much money. He'd pay agency fees. If Alex Ferguson was manager this season, would we have spent £60 million on Di Maria? I don't think so.
No, he was never the sort of manager to bring in like that player.
Yeah, and I think Ferguson's got to take a lot of blame for what's going on at United at the moment, because I think
it was quite clever what Ferguson did.
It was very clever. I mean, he left average players.
And also the fact is, like, it's easy to say, like, obviously you're a fan, you know more than me, but Ferguson, that people are saying like, oh, he brought in Anderson, he's brought in all these other players, but he won the league with these players. It's not like Anderson was sitting out like Jason Park. We saw what he was like when he went to QPR. He was a super sub at Man United for years, but the minute he went to QPR, he fell apart. And you think, how can this player play so good under Alex Ferguson, and then suddenly all these players are just turning into nothing? And I think Ferguson's to blame for not bringing in the talent as he knew he was leaving. But to be fair, is he going to?
Well, I think in all fairness, it's a winning mentality. He drove it into the players that it was a winning mentality. And I think, I'm not saying that. I'll never ever say that Anderson or Jason Park or Nani or Ashley Young are not good players. They're good players. But they've never kicked on, and that's the difference at United. You get players that come in and they develop and they kick on and they become... Look at Ronaldo. Did anybody really think when Ronaldo came to Manchester United that he was going to be one of the world's best players?
No.
He looked nothing. He didn't look anything his first 2 years at United.
Especially from what players are sort of branded now. You see the likes of... Januzaj, as much as I think he's a great player, there's too much pressure on him.
Yeah.
He's already a world famous player at that age. At that age, he should be thinking of nothing more than I need to impress my manager. But now it's just like contract this, contract that. Oh, I'm not getting paid enough. Well, maybe I'll move. You can't think like that. You've got to still think as a youth player until you're playing regularly in the first team.
Yeah.
And a player who always annoyed me was Scott Sinclair. He waited in the wings for his chance at Chelsea for years, and then he left, and his career went sky high, and then moves to a team like City, with nothing happening. So you've got to wait. You've got to wait till things happen, but don't make silly decisions, because it could come back to haunt these players. Like players like Paul Pogba, yeah, it paid off for him, but you see a lot of players, like especially Tottenham, a lot of their youth players are just fading away because they're just not waiting. They're not taking their chances. Especially like in United, like Januzaj probably would have fitted in perfectly now if they didn't buy anything or it was under a different manager, because he's a quality player and his time would have come, like Blackett's chance has come.
Yeah, I think, look, we've maybe gone on to the topic of United crisis here by mistake, but I think, I think, look, in all fairness, I wouldn't really call it a crisis. I think, in all fairness, at Manchester United at the moment, they've got
more transition than crisis.
I think they've got clear defensive issues, and I'm a United fan, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. When I saw that first team for Manchester United, I wasn't expecting anything other than West Ham to beat us at Old Trafford. To go 2-0 up like we did, and to be perfectly honest with you, if Wayne Rooney doesn't get sent off, we win that game 4 or 5-0.
Yeah, I couldn't see West Ham getting a goal back if there was 11 men on the pitch. Like, I mean, no disrespect to them players, but yeah.
United going forward, they're just, you can't say. I mean, they were devastating at times. I mean, the game against QPR, what was it, 3-4-0?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was some of their attacking play was some of the best I've seen this season, and I think obviously it's just transition, and I do believe their best times will be back in the next couple of years. I don't think it will take long.
No, I don't. I think they're 2-3 players away from a team that will challenge for the title, and as long as we see more of Van Gaal's tactics, none of this like 5 at the back, 3 at the back, 4 at the back. Just pick a formation and settle with it, because it's not doing the players any favours.
Yeah.
And also, like you saw in the Leicester match, I don't think United will win many games 3-0, but I can see them winning a lot of games 4-2 or 5-3. Because
I think it'll be a case of this season. If you score 3, we'll score 5 at United.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it'll be a case of that. I think probably this season Manchester United will score the most goals, but we'll concede the most as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Right, now we're going to the next match that we've got. We've got Liverpool-Everton, Merseyside derby. Did you see the match, lads?
Yeah, I watched it.
Pretty poor match, wasn't it?
Well, it's a typical derby, isn't it? It's everybody. Look, it's Sky. They hype the games up for the week before, and it's this, that, and the other, and they show all the best bits from the 4 or 5 games the seasons before, and and it gets built up, it gets hyped up, and to be fair, I think in a derby, a 1-1 draw is not a bad result. I think, in all fairness, Liverpool should have really won the game, and I do believe, I actually agree with Gary Neville in saying that I think Mignolet should have saved Jagielka's shot. I mean, it's an absolute worldie of a strike.
Definitely.
I think,
but also it's the start that both of the. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, as Gary Neville said, if Mignolet sets himself there and he's not crouched down, he saves that. He tips that over the bar, and Liverpool get 3 points. But everything that they've done in that game, they're talking now that they're looking to get a new goalkeeper in because they're not comfortable with him. They're not comfortable with the mistakes he's making. I'm not Liverpool's biggest fan by all means, but they had one of the best goalkeepers in football in Pepe Reina, and they've let him go out on loan and then sell him.
Strange decision now. I can't understand.
Yeah, considering I think we all thought Reina was better than Mignolet. I haven't really rated Mignolet other than a few matches.
Reina had his moments as well. At times he was very flappy.
Yeah, that's true.
But he was over the years he was quite a consistent goalkeeper for Liverpool. And their fans seem to love him as well. And if
Pepe Reina was in that Merseyside derby the weekend, Pepe Reina saves Jagielka's shots. Simple as
that. Yeah,
saves it, and Liverpool win.
But also, I think it's both of the teams haven't had the greatest starts considering how well they performed last year. And I think you can say I don't really have an excuse for Everton, but you can sort of understand the Suarez issue. And the fact that Sturridge wasn't playing. But I
don't think it's anything to do with Suarez with Liverpool. I think for me the big thing is and again it's this, as a Man United fan, this is going to sound like a dig. It really isn't. But they should have won the league last season.
Yeah.
They should have won the league. They should have had the league wrapped up with 2 or 3 games to go. And I
think that was another defensive thing, really, because I don't think they had the defenders to shut up shop when they needed to. I mean, it was matches against Chelsea. Chelsea didn't go to win there. You know, we went to get a draw, but things happen. You know, Gerrard slip. You know, it still makes me chuckle, but it's them moments. It's like these can't happen.
I just think the way they built themselves up for that game. You know, you saw Gerrard getting the players together after the game and telling them that you can't let it slip now. They're going to win the league. You know, they had 3 or 4 games before the end of the season. They had thousands of fans outside Anfield cheering.
Selling T-shirts.
We're going to win the league. When the team's coming in selling Premier League champions T-shirts and stuff. I think that
set up for disaster. Really,
it was set up for disaster. But the energy and effort it would have taken for those players, game in, game out, to try and actually bring the title to Liverpool for them fans. And I just think that they're suffering maybe a hangover from it. And it may take them 6 months or so to kick on and maybe get back. Because, I mean, at times last season, Liverpool were devastating. They were excellent. Devastating.
Going forward, phenomenal.
And it was even the fact when Suarez had a quiet game, Sturridge was amazing, you know, and they had a lot of backups. Sterling was great, and
I think
Coutinho,
another thing as well is like that. The role Rodgers put Gerrard in last year, that sort of holding role, which was just sort of protecting the back foot. I think a lot of teams have cottoned on to him now this season. They're just putting a man on Gerrard. And he's not
he doesn't handle well under pressure.
Time on the ball as last season, and I think he's struggling as well.
Yeah,
I just think now it's getting to the point, and you know, it's not nice to say, especially maybe coming from a United fan, but I think it's maybe time Liverpool look at maybe just letting Gerrard sit a few games out. Look at Paul Scholes got to an age at Manchester United before he retired the first time, and he sat a lot of games out at Manchester United. And then he brought back in maybe for the big Champions League game or for Chelsea at home or something like that. I think Gerrard's in his 30s now. His legs have gone. That's why he's sat as a defensive midfielder. He's not that box-to-box midfielder. He's not that player that's going to hit a worldie from 35 yards into the top corner anymore. And I just think just save his legs, because they could possibly, if they do it right, they could possibly get another 2 years out of Gerrard. But if they keep playing
the big game player, the captain for morale,
But they play him week in, week out for another season and a half, and he'll have to retire. He won't be able to play.
And also, I think there's a lot of pressure on him now, because you know, before it was Carragher, they had the sort of like those two are the main people, but now everyone is Gerrard this, Gerrard that. They've got to realise that they've got to move with the future. It's, you know, it hurt every Chelsea fan and probably made every West Ham fan happy when Lampard left Chelsea. But, you know, would you prefer Lampard, who's in a year's going to retire anyway, or do you want a player like Fabregas? You know, it's a simple decision when you think about it, because Lampard he'll only give you a certain thing, and Lampard was always good at hanging around outside the box and getting a goal. But we've got Oscar, we've got William, we've got Hazard, and Liverpool seem to have this. I know they have a bond with Gerrard, but he's not going to last forever. And the sooner they come to realise that, it's going to be easier, because they've got a great player in Henderson, and I don't think he's being used to what he can do. And then Joe Allen, we've seen him like last season and this season, he's played remarkably well. So
I think the biggest disappointment with Liverpool this season for me is, you know, they've lost Suarez, and regardless of his off the field antics, his on field antics, of whatever it may be, the bloke's a world class player, and they had an opportunity this season to say, right, okay, we're losing a world class player, and Mario Balotelli's come in, and he likes the limelight, he likes to be the man, he likes to be the centre of attention, and he had the chance to walk into, again, arguably one of the biggest football clubs in the world. Liverpool are one of the biggest football clubs in world football. And he had the opportunity to walk into there and announce himself to the footballing world to say, I am here. And he's been absolutely dreadful.
He has been
shocking.
I've never really seen Balotelli as one of them players, but he's definitely got the ability to be one of those players. But I know, Chris, you're a fan of Balotelli, but when at AC Milan, you could probably put forward that it was a poor league, and AC Milan didn't do particularly well. And then when he was previously at Inter Milan, he was a young player. But when he moved to City, he was a sort of big game player, but you didn't really see much else of him.
You see, the thing is with Balotelli as well, I think like Serie A and Italian football is suited to his game. He needs a lot of time on the ball. It's quite slow. I don't know about Balotelli. I mean, he's just no Suarez, really, is he? I mean, the work rate's not there. I mean, okay.
He looks disinterested if he hasn't getting his own way.
I just don't think him and Sturridge, I mean, how's that going to work? I can't see that working either, to be honest.
No, you don't really see Balotelli as the assisting sort of player. And also, you've seen from Premier League defenders, you saw in his debut, I think it was against Villa, wasn't it? Where I think it was Senderos was just giving him a punch in the stomach, and he's just reacted and just thrown an arm. And it's just like, they're going to be doing that to you every single match now. And it's like, you don't have this sort of time to turn around, hold the ball, and then think about a world-class shot's going in here, because you've got one player on you the whole match. So it's either you assist Sturridge or you're not suited to this team.
He's the kind of player that he like you say, he wants time on the ball, and in the Premier League you don't get time on the ball. It's as simple as that. And to be fair, he knew that, because he look at how many times playing for Manchester City, they just stick a man on him and pester him, kick him, pinch him, pull him, whatever.
And especially, I'll never forget that Tottenham match. How he stayed on the pitch, I don't know, because he stamped on Scott Parker's head. He was kicking players. It was a miracle how he stayed on the pitch. But that happens to him way too often, and I don't think he's got the self-control to stop these things happening.
The difference between it with me, they've replaced Suarez, he had that nasty side to him, and the amount of games that he's missed and he's never been sent off. I mean, that record will probably go down in history. But the thing is with Balotelli is Suarez used to do stupid things but get away with it or not get caught. Balotelli will do stupid things during the game.
Yeah, right in front of the refs.
He'll get sent off. And
100%.
He'll instantly put his team under pressure because, Suarez would get banned for 8 games, but he wouldn't get sent off. So Liverpool had the chance to build on that and to change the team, to change the tactics, train on it for a week. But, Balotelli at Old Trafford, all it takes is for somebody to pinch the back of his arm or trip him up when he runs, and he's going to react. And 5-10 minutes into the game, he'll get sent off.
Exactly. And also the big fact, Sturridge looks very injury prone at the moment. So before, where they could rely on Sturridge to come in like they did at the start of last season because Suarez was banned, they don't have that at the moment. And if England plays Sturridge, it could aggravate it more. And it's not a good sign for that club at the moment. And the players they brought in, I'm not seeing them. Then Lallana, he's looked poor, but then so have, I think, all the Southampton players that have gone at the moment, they've looked quite poor.
It's a huge
especially
step.
Lovren. Yeah, exactly. It is a huge step up as well.
Look, I mean, I don't think that the players that they signed were the answers to what Liverpool needed.
No, it should have been, at least 50, 60 million, a world-class player, striker, you're sorted. They didn't have any problems in any other departments. Just replace what went.
Yeah.
But, right, let's get on to the next match. Arsenal-Tottenham, another derby. Did you guys see that one?
I did indeed.
Wasn't too much of a match, more than a paint drying, really.
I think both teams were pretty poor, to be honest, and I think they're going to both struggle this year. I think Arsenal...
Yeah. I mean, I was watching some of the replies from the fans, and you saw the replies on Twitter, and it was just like, we played really well, but Tottenham came for the draw. It was like, I'm not seeing where you thought that you played well, because I didn't see anything from Arsenal that showed out-and-out winners that were unlucky because Tottenham nicked a goal. Because
the problem with Arsenal is, they have one or two injuries, and then they'll fall to pot. The thing is, the Chelseas, the Cities, they've got a good squad. Arsenal haven't got a good squad.
No.
They've got a few world-class players, but if these world-class players are injured, the players they're bringing in are not up to the job. It's simple as that.
No, and also you've seen players like Ozil. He goes missing for so many games that you can't have that in a team like Arsenal, because you need someone that's going to be there all day, every day. And then for someone, every fan. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Mikel Arteta. I really, really don't rate him at all.
No, I didn't see what they bought in him either, because I thought he was good for Everton, but he was always the attacking midfielder.
He's a creative midfielder. I mean, he's playing him as a holding midfielder, and it's just not working. It's really not working.
And also with the striker, everyone was like, get a striker. Giroud's not up to it. I rated Giroud, actually. I didn't think there was any problem with Giroud. I thought the matches he played was good. Okay, he didn't score against the top teams, but he was playing every match. But you bring in Welbeck. I know this is one that Richard loves because he got someone off United's back, but I
don't understand. I don't understand with Arsenal at all. I mean, they've not replaced Van Persie. If you look at the players that Arsenal have let go over the last 5-6
years, that's a Premier League winning team.
They could have won the Premier League, the Champions League for 2 or 3 years on the bounce. With the players, I mean, even the likes of Song that they let go to Barcelona. Why?
He was one of the main reasons Van Persie was so good.
Exactly. I mean, but look, I think with Arsenal, everybody knows that they've not had. I mean, and granted, let's be perfectly honest with you. Apart from 1 or 2 seasons, Van Persie wasn't prolific because he was mostly injured. But they've had ample opportunities to replace him over the last 2 seasons with a 20-25 goal a season striker. And still for this day, I do not understand why nobody, not just Arsenal, why nobody in the Premier League that's looking for a striker has not gone and tried to get Huntelaar.
No, I thought Chelsea were going to at one point, but that just went out the window.
The lad scores goals for fun wherever.
Yeah, we saw that against Chelsea versus Schalke. He'll have it in him. You won't see him for a whole match, but bang, he'll be there. Exactly what you want him.
Exactly. He's a class striker, and I had a bit of banter on Twitter with Piers Morgan, and I told Piers Morgan that if Danny Welbeck ever scores 25 Premier League goals in a season, I'll give 10 grand to a charity of his choice. I'll hold that for the rest of my life, because Danny Welbeck will never score 25 Premier League goals in a season.
I don't think, unless it's penalties, I don't think he would.
He'd miss them. Did you see his penalty in the shootout for Manchester United?
Oh God, it was dreadful.
It landed in my back garden.
But we also saw when Oxlade-Chamberlain scored his goal. It was a great assist from him, but I don't know what it is with him. He just doesn't look like a footballer. But for someone, 15 million, wasn't it? That's a lot for an average player. And yeah, we've seen him do it. He done it with Sunderland, and the year United won the league, but nothing else really.
I mean, he works incredibly hard, but he's not a 15, 20 man a season striker, and that is what Arsenal need. And I personally, I think Wenger's been poor in the transfer market. I really do. I mean, Sanchez, great signing, but the players they need, Arsenal, he hasn't got in.
No, and especially that they only needed that one striker, according to Wenger. But I think we all knew that they needed a holding midfield player, and Khedira was available. but then suddenly he wasn't, or was it United didn't want to buy him? But then we hear this story every year. Wenger didn't want to spend blah blah blah. He was a certain amount away from his transfer fee. It was the same with the young kid from Germany, Draxler. It's just one thing after another with Wenger, and then he brings in Ozil. A player they probably didn't even need a number 10, really, did they?
I think
Ozil just looks disinterested at the moment. He just doesn't.
You can tell that lad doesn't want to play for that football club, and
no,
it's blatantly obvious that he never wanted to leave Real Madrid. He's been unhappy since he's been there.
I can't say I've ever seen him happy. I mean, even when they won the FA Cup, it was such a poor celebration from him. It was just like, they celebrated the day they won it, but we haven't really heard anything since that. It's all gone incredibly quiet, and you wouldn't even remember that they did win it, other than the fact that their fans go on about it quite a bit. But none of the players are still going on about it. Podolski took a few selfies that day, but it seems like that's it. And it's the one thing they craved was a trophy, but we all know that the FA Cup, it's a brilliant trophy to win, but when you're a team who's challenging for the Champions League every year, you want to win the league, really, don't you? And the players they brought in clearly don't warrant winning the league, because you turn down someone like Fabregas, if that's true.
Why was Sanchez relegated to the bench as well?
He was excellent. I thought. I don't understand. To play Ozil on the left as well. It doesn't make no sense. We've seen that the man can't play in that position.
He's another player who needs a lot of time with the ball. He needs a lot of space. He needs people around him to do the work for him. But I personally don't think he wants to be at Arsenal.
No,
I don't.
And considering that when he was at Real Madrid, he was setting up Ronaldo. It's a lot different than setting up Giroud and setting up Ramsey. And Ramsey's another one. He has not performed this year the way he did last year.
Yeah. And he's an injury-prone player. And it's a shame, because for a while it looked like, where was this potential that this lad everyone talked about? Where was this world-class player that was going to emerge? And to be fair, last season he looked quite devastating until he got injured, and it was you were starting to stand up and think, hang on a minute, here's that player that everybody was talking about. He's finally kicked on, maybe a couple of seasons too late, but he's kicked on, and unfortunately for the lad, he keeps getting injured. And is he going to be another one of them players that's got all the potential in the world to be something, but just can't stop getting injured? Look at Phil Jones at United. He's quite. For Alex Ferguson to turn around 2 seasons ago and say he's probably the most complete footballer that United have seen since Duncan Edwards. Now that's a big statement. That's a big statement to make, but the lad just gets injured week in, week out, and it's frustrating for a United fan, because he has that potential, Phil Jones, to be an amazing centre back, and just he plays 4 or 5 games, then he's out for 8, and you can't do that.
And also, I think another big loss in that team is Theo Walcott. He's such an important player. He's one of these players. He'll get gunned by these fans, and everything he does. If he doesn't do anything good, it's Walcott's rubbish. Walcott's that. But he's another player. He'll guarantee you a good match. And at the moment, I don't understand where he fits into that team, because I think Cazorla's a great player. I think Sanchez is a great player. Ramsey gets in that squad easily. And I think the way Wenger's going, Ozil seems to warrant a place. So where does Walcott fit into that team? He could say it was a striker, but then he's brought in Welbeck.
I think Walcott's another one. He's got all the potential, but there just doesn't seem to be that end product from him. And he has 2 or 3 games where you think, here we go, this is it, he's going to kick on, and then he either gets injured or goes missing again. And that's Arsenal's problem. They've got so many players in their squad that you look and think there is so much potential here,
especially like players like Oxlade-Chamberlain. He was considered like the English wonder kid, and you know, he just seems he's turned. I know he's still young and there's plenty of time for him, but he's turned into a sub player. You know, isn't it? Isn't it?
To kick on. They just don't seem to have got. You know, Arsenal have probably got the bones to have one of the best teams in the Premier League. You know, there may be one or two players. I'm maybe three players: a world-class centre back, a world-class goalkeeper, and a world-class striker. You know, and they're there or thereabouts challenging for European Cups. But it just seems he's got so much potential in his squad, but Wenger seems to have lost the ability to get that
get the best out there.
You know, look at the team that he used to have, and you know the ability that he got out of some of those players, and you know, look at what he did with Thierry Henry. You know, he turned the lad into probably one of the most devastating strikers in football at the time.
Yeah,
and that lad,
and also what he's done with other players as well. He's made Fabregas into a player. You know, he's picked out like players from the French league that nobody's really heard about, and they've turned them into world beaters. And you know, obviously they've gone players like Nasri and Clichy, and even Cole. Like, but
he's become very stubborn as he's got older.
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
I don't understand how he's not able to keep hold of his players though. What is it? What's going on at Arsenal for them not to be able to hold on to their world class talent? You know, and as an Arsenal fan, I'd be worried thinking, well, yeah, hang on a minute, we've got Sanchez, but he'll be gone in 18 months.
Yeah, and I think the big one's Wilshere. I think if Wilshere, I can't see it happening, but if Wilshere does go, that's a big.
I don't rate that lad one bit. I really don't.
I don't rate him, but I've seen things from him that I know that he has that potential, but. You know, he's another one. He'll have a really good couple of months, then he'll be injured
for
about 6 months.
Wilshere is just, I mean, a classic example of a overhyped English youngster. I don't think he's...
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything from Wilshere to suggest he is, should be... I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me.
If Wilshere was Scottish or Welsh, no one would be talking about it.
No,
he's English, and he's. I mean, look. I mean, I'm not being funny, but look at Lallana. Lallana's not worth £25 million.
No,
he's £25 million because he's English, and for some reason, clubs think that English players, warrant a premium price. You know, and coming from a United fan, Luke Shaw's not worth 25, 27 million, whatever United paid for him, £24 million. Luke Shaw wasn't worth £15 million.
No,
but we've had to pay 20 odd million pound for him because he's English.
And I think teams in England, they also exploit. You know, they know Lallana's not a young player. You know, he's probably he's playing at his prime at the moment. Like, you saw the season he had last year. It was never going to get better than that unless he moved to another team. So, and he's 26. Like,
but
people were referring to him as the next England youngster. I was like, this isn't a 19-year-old kid that's coming through Southampton. This is a man. You know, he's only got a few. No, he's just exactly.
He's just. I mean, the Arsenal fans, Wenger, the Arsenal coach staff, everyone's been hyping the lad up, but he's just seemed to stay at that same level. He hasn't I don't think there's any signs of like maturing, or anything. I don't think he's developed.
I think we've both got a bit mixed up there. I was talking about Lallana.
Oh,
and I
right.
think
Sorry.
Talking about,
I thought we were on the Wilshere subject.
No, but it's the same with Wilshere. I mean, he's had a good few years at the top, and I mean, I know he's only 22, but he's played a good few years in the Premier League for someone of his age, and you want to see something. But it was the same as Scholes was saying I think it was a year ago actually, where he was just like, I haven't seen him change since he was like the 18-year-old kid who's just come through on his debut, because he really hasn't. And I still don't think that Arsenal, which is quite worrying, I still don't think they know what sort of player he is, because he just seems to be, I can play in midfield, but what part of midfield? And he doesn't have an answer for it.
I just think a lot of this is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, Arsenal are a big club, but
Yeah.
if the likes of Fabregas and Song and the players that they had at Arsenal had stayed, would Wiltshire be a week in, week out player? I don't really think so. I think
I don't think Wiltshire would be there, to be fair.
And you've got to look. People have said. I mean, and I'll take it to Lallana, I'll take it to Shaw, and the rest of the Southampton players that have moved on this season and gone to to bigger clubs, so to speak. And that's no disrespect to Southampton. No. You're a big club, but obviously they've moved. They've got to step up. For me, were they just not big fishes in a small pond? And the best analogy of that for me would be Matt Le Tissier. Matt Le Tissier is probably he'll probably go down as one of the best players the Premier League's seen in his ability, what he could do.
Yeah.
But he was a big fish at a small pond. If he'd have moved on to a United or to a Chelsea or to an Arsenal or a Liverpool, he'd have just been another player. But he stayed at Southampton, he was the big fish in a small pond. Is that not the same now with Lallana? He was the big fish in a small pond. He's gone to Anfield, and now he's just fading into the background of just your normal player.
It could be the same said for I know he did win the league, but it could be the same said for Shearer as well, because if he would have gone to United, wow, that team but he didn't, and he became a legend at Newcastle as much as Le Tissier did at Southampton. But these players, especially nowadays, because Southampton have just replaced Ricky Lambert with Pele, and the guy's amazing, and Ricky Lambert is just sitting in the subs. And I was saying to everyone, and everyone was just like, yeah, but it's his boyhood club. But this is the boyhood club that let him go.
I don't believe in all that. Look, I mean, I know footballers. I've played football. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I've played for. I was at Manchester United when I was younger. I don't care what anyone says. Manchester United is my boyhood football club, and I had the chance to play for them. But if I ever thought I wasn't going to be getting a game, I'd go and play for Man City. I'd play for Liverpool.
Exactly.
I don't care. It's as far as I'm concerned. While I'm being paid my wages, it's a job, and I'm a professional, and I don't care who's paying my wages as long as I'm playing football. So,
and especially considering Ricky Lambert is, he's probably got at least 2 years left playing at this level. He's never Champions League level anyway. He's a novelty buy. They probably wanted an English player to keep up with the rules and, cup game. But he's come in, and he came in a time when Suarez was there, which really stumped me, because it was just now, you're not getting a chance over Sturridge, let alone Suarez. But then this whole Suarez thing happened, and he forced a move out, potentially, and then they went and bought Balotelli. So it's just you're never getting in that team, and I just don't understand what made him want to go. It's bizarre, because he's basically said I'll retire now. He could have been playing for Southampton, but I think Southampton have won this.
Look, I mean, he was never going to play week in, week out for Liverpool. I think he knew that. It's just a case of maybe he wanted one last swan song. I mean, I always thought as a United fan, Paul Scholes might end up retiring at Oldham Athletic. It was his boyhood club. He maybe, finish at United and then go and do 6 months or, 12 months at Oldham Athletic and just say, look, I've played for the biggest football club in the world, but I retired at my boyhood team. So I kind of get that sentimental value, but you're only going to want to go to your boyhood team if you're going to play. I mean, look at Teddy Sheringham. He went back to Spurs because he knew he'd play. He knew he wasn't going to play at Manchester United. He had the opportunity to stay at United, maybe sit on the bench, come on for 1 or 2 games, maybe get the odd cup game and get a pay packet of, 80 grand a week. Or he could go back to Spurs and play week in, week out and be the hero again. And that's what he wanted. He wanted to play week in, week out, and he didn't care where he was playing. But, to leave Southampton where you're gonna play week in, week out, to go and sit on the bench for your boyhood club, do you really, as a professional footballer, do you really want to sit on the bench for your boyhood club, or do you want to play football? And
exactly.
You know,
And considering he would have been a starter. You know, I don't care if Koeman had just come in, he would have probably still been a starter. And maybe Pele wouldn't have been bought, you know, but it's an interesting turn of events because currently Southampton have sold a lot of players and they're sitting second. You know, they're very comfortable. And I can't see things changing. They've brought in quite a few good players as well. But I guess we'll see what happens more in the future. Right, I think we'll call this a time on here, guys. Thanks for a great episode, and great. Thanks, Chris, for coming on. Hopefully you can come on again.
Cheers.
Hopefully you can come on again in the future. You're more than welcome, mate. Hopefully next time you come on, you know, West Ham might have won, but you never.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Chris, mate.
See you later.